G'day everyone, welcome back. This time we're not actually on the boat, but we are working on my outboard. So this little tacker is the 4 horsepower that I put on for the tender to get in and out to the big boat. I'm pretty sure, I think I already probably have 1 or 2 videos on this on the channel from a while ago when I got it, but essentially ever since I got it, there's one thing that it desperately needed, and we're finally going to do it today. So yeah, before I show you what that is and before we get into it, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to anybody who watched or liked or commented on the previous video. It was that video far exceeded any expectations I had for not having put one out for so long, and then to get such a nice welcome and return back to doing these videos. It was really good. Really appreciated it. So yeah, like I said, anyone who is new to the channel, welcome. It actually drew quite a good number of subs in as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and hopefully I can keep up some sort of semi-regular pace for videos. But anyway, I'm going to show you what it is we desperately need to do to this, and then we're going to get to work. Okie dokie. So like I said, there would be a few videos on this motor already, so if you wanted to go back and have a look, or I might even, if I'm feeling less lazy, dig through and see if I can find them and put them in the description of this video. But essentially it's a 4 horsepower Yamaha. It had a fairly hard life before I got it. As you can tell, she's full custom on the lid, but it is actually a pretty clean engine, and it does run really good. So yeah, it hasn't given me any trouble in the whole time that I've had it. But down here is the problem. She's a long shaft. Now at the time, I only paid $300 for this whole unit, so at the time I was not going to knock it back, but it is way too long for the tinny, for the tender. So when it's on the tinny, on the tender, so it's a little, I think it's a 10-foot or 11-foot tinny that I've got, the water line is about there. Like, it's way, actually no, sorry, no, I think the water line's that's about where it sits when it's at plane. So it's got all that hanging in the water. It's also a bit of a bugger for the beach that I always launch and retrieve it off, because it's quite shallow. So as you're coming up to shore, I'm constantly nicking the bottom of it, and I have ran the prop several times into the sand, and it's just too long for the boat and too long for where I am. So conveniently, this section here is just a spacer block, so we can undo the 3 bolts that hold the lower gearbox on, drop that off, pull the spacer block out. Now we have to cut, there'll be a feed tube, a water feed tube that goes up. We'll have to cut that. We'll have to cut the shifter linkage, and unfortunately I don't have a short shaft drive shaft, so we'll have to cut and shut the actual drive shaft as well. So not the end of the world, just something we're going to have to cross the bridge when we come to it, but the motor and the outfit will be much better for it. So plus we'll save a little bit of weight. I might even weigh it, see how much it is, just that, because it is a little bit of a lump. Being a 4-stroke, it's got a bit of weight to it. So anyway, let's get to work. We'll get the lower gearbox off, get that out, and see what we need to do to make it shorter. Alright, well, in typical fashion of everything I do, this just got big. So this tube here is the water feed, so it comes out of the water pump up there, a water impeller if you would like, up there, feeds the engine, and then the water itself mixes with the exhaust and comes back out. No drama. Trouble I've got is that in order to get this the right length, I'm going to have to cut it up in here, up inside the leg section, or the upper leg, whatever you want to call it. This bit of pipe, this feed pipe, seems to be attached to something up in here. And the only way to get access to up in here is to pull the actual power head off. So I'm going to have to undo all the bolts that hold the power head to the base plate so that I can get access to the water tube. Of all the things I thought were going to make me a little bit difficult on this, I didn't think that was going to be it. But here we are. So anyway, I'm here now. Might as well keep going. We'll get this power head off and hopefully that gives me access to that. Okie dokie. Well, we got there. So yeah, I was never going to get that one out with pulling it from the bottom. There's our rod. So I'll cut it. What do we got to do? So I've actually got a little pipe bender here. I can just kink that. So we'll cut it shorter and put it back in. I did kill the gasket, which is a bit of a bugger, but I don't think there's anything overly critical as far as clearances go. So it'll be going back on with some Celastic or some, you know, proper RTV. But yeah, anyway, it come off all right. It's just way more work than what I was anticipating, but that's the way it rolls. Okay, so we finally got it all cleaned up. That surface, and I got my rod shortened. Now, bit of an ubi days, but that's brass, not copper. So I trimmed to the length and went to bend the kink in it, and it didn't bend, it just snapped. So anyway, I basically soldered it where it needs to be, put it all back together, and then I put some dual wall. Why is it focusing on everything but what I want it to? Dual wall, internally glued heat shrink on it as well. This has cold water running through it, and by the time it hits that far down in the leg, it's got cold water around it mixed with exhaust gas. Anyway, it's the right length, it's got the kink, it is soldered, and it'll be good. So we're going to put that back in there, and then I'm going to go and get some RTV, probably some red RTV, so high temperature, because I do have exhaust comes all through this port here. So yeah, put it all back together with some red RTV. It even has the actual torque sequence on the bottom. So where are we? They're all there. 1, 2, 3. So anyway, and it says to torque them to 22 Newton meters. Actually no, I think that's the sump bolt. M6 bolts, 11 Newton meters. So yeah, which is good. So it even gives me a torque spec. So I'll get the power head back on it, and then get the rest of the other bits cut and get it back together. Nothing really to show, just plonked it back on with some red RTV. It's doing it to me again, focus. So the shift rod, alright, let's come over here, because this is just getting ridiculous. So that's the shifter, gear selector. It's been trimmed down, so I cut out that much and re-welded it back together. Nice and strong. It's only a gear selector, you know, it's really not that critical. Well, it's a critical component, but there's not a lot of load on it. So the only thing left to shorten now is the actual drive shaft. Now these are normally spring steel, which, you know, you got to be careful when you weld it. I do actually have some what are they? They're chromoly rods, which might work well for it, or I've got some stainless rods as well. So I'll just see, the bit I cut out, I'll do a little bit of a tester and see which one wants to flow better. But yeah, you just got to be careful with spring steel and hardened steel. Sometimes you can get some crystallization around the weld. So we'll see, but all it has to do is hold back the mighty 4 horsepower that this thing's going to put out. So, you know, I can't sleeve it. Oop, there goes my ruler. I can't sleeve it. I was originally going to cut it, basically butt weld it and then sleeve it, but I can't because the water pump has to slide down over it. So anyway, that's all right. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to cut it. So I'm going to cut it, and then I'll cut it long, and I'll actually machine a male protrusion on one end, and then the other end that I cut, I will drill so that way I'll get it's on center. We'll also put a nice weld prep on it, so we'll bevel the edges so we get a nice good deep weld penetration of 2 or 3 passes with the TIG, and that'll get it good. But I'll know for a fact it's on center, and I'll clamp it in the V block anyway of my my square here, and we'll clamp it and we'll tack it and everything, so it'll be nice and true. And then if I have to, I can bend it a bit straighter with some heat afterwards, but I think we'll be okay. So yeah, that's really our next step. I've measured before and after, so we're 780 now is what the length is. 128 is how thick that is, so it brings us down to a 665 as our total length when we should be done. So yeah, that's the last step. We'll get that done, and then we can finally put the whole thing back together. Alright, so there we go. Again, if it'll focus, this camera is all over the shop at the moment. Come on, come on, there we go. Alright, so drill the end and then spun this one down so they fit together. Now, good fit in there. So yeah, like I said, we'll clamp it up in the V blocks and we'll TIG it up and make sure it's nice and straight. Okay, so after welding, oh, that's my little bush down there. The weld is here. I just machined it back, so like I said, because I got to slide the water pump and everything over the top of this shaft. Actually, that might be incorrect. No, I don't. Huh, I could have sleeved it. Dumbass, I looked at it the wrong way. Anyway, we're done now. Machine back, it's now the same size, and if we turn the lathe on, there's, you know, essentially no run out. And I mean, I think that's probably straight enough to hold the mighty 4 Shetlands at bay. So, alright, that's it now. So yeah, the drive shaft's done and the shifter linkage is done, so it can all go back together, and we'll put it up on the stand and take it and give it a little test run, make sure it goes in and out of gear. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So a few things to note while it was going back together. Noticed that we weren't getting, the choke wasn't coming off all the way. So that looks like the choke inner at some point had snapped and they'd rebent it, and it was only really coming off to maybe half position, so I was running around on half choke. So we fixed that, put a new choke inner in, and it comes off all the way now. And also I wasn't quite getting full throttle. Wasn't far off it, but it was, yeah, not 100% throttle. So now we are. Alright, this will take a few pulls to get going. It always does when there's no fuel in it, because you've got to use the fuel pump to prime the carburetor. But we'll see how we go. Probably takes, I don't know, normally about 10 pulls or so. Or more. The gear, yep.
Turn the fuel tap on?
No, didn't turn the fuel tap on. Might if you turn the fuel tap on, it primes quicker too.
Do you want me to hold the back of the motor for you?
No. Yeah, it's up. It'll take a while. Right, choke's off. We'll be pumping water. We're pumping water. It's good.
Cold water.
Hey?
Cold water,
No choke.
Choke on about where I was.
What about there? It is a bit doughy out. Make sure there's no leaks or anything coming from it. Can't see any leaks. Fuel off. Let it run for 4 hours on the freaking.
It's a lot longer now.
Hey?
It's a lot longer now, that's good.
Yeah. Can't see any leaks or anything coming from.
Yours come down the back of this water blood at the top. Out there. Here.
Oh, there, yeah. Alright, well there we go. Runs, happy. Should be much happier in the water now. And, you know, chokes all the way off and it's getting full throttle, so be good. We did also, I said I was going to, I'll take it all off now. Weighed the components I took off. And it's actually over 1 kilo. So almost, you know, almost 1,100 grams. That's a fair bit. That's going to be noticeable, which I didn't think it'd lose that much. I only thought there'd be, you know, 300 or 400 grams in it, maybe half a kilo. But to drop a full kilo, that's noticeable. Should make it just a bit easier to move around and get it down to the tinny on the water. So, all right. Unfortunately, this episode you're not going to see it on the boat, but the next episode you will. So I'm heading out there this weekend and going to get some stuff done. And we'll give it a good run. I'm fingers crossed it gets it up on the plane a bit better. I could plane it before, but you'd have to sort of sit forward and get the bow down and then it'd get up and go. But hopefully with this now, it actually pulls up by itself and takes off. That'd be nice anyway. All right, well, as always, thanks for watching. And yeah, stay safe and we'll catch you on the next one.